Hello and welcome to Nippin Anand. Nippin, I must just publicly give an apology because I publicised you as DNVGL. I know you do work for DNVGL, but I know this presentation you're presenting in your own right. So I just wanted to make that clear to everybody. We're now pressing on for almost halfway through the Marine Surveying International Fest. I'm delighted to have Nippin, who is somebody who came and presented at the IMS London conference a couple of years ago. We very much enjoyed his content then, so he was somebody I was very keen to come and contribute to the fest. So much appreciated, Nippin. You're going to talk about near-miss reporting, a misleading indicator of safety. So without further ado, Nippin, I will be quiet and let you take over.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you for this opportunity, first of all, to be part of this wonderful event. So I'm going to talk about near-miss reporting and what is seen as an indicator, or rather a leading indicator of safety in many organizations. What I believe is that, at least in the way near misses are reported and analyzed, they actually are a misleading indicator of safety. And for the next 20 minutes or so, I will take you through this presentation to argue why I think so. I will start off with a very personal story. And this is, as you can see on the screen, there are three ships heading in the same direction, with mine right in the center, the blue one. What you see on the left-hand side is shallow waters. And this goes back to 2001 April. At 3 o'clock in the morning, about 10 past 3 in the morning, I was standing my watch. And all three ships heading towards a port in Japan. We were all supposed to be picking up pilot, or at least I assume so, nearly around the same time. And suddenly, the ship on the port side turns on a perpendicular course without any pre-warning whatsoever. So what do? I call the master, and within 2 minutes, the captain was on the bridge. As you can see, there's a very close quarter situation developing here. The ship on the port bow is not willing to cooperate. The ship on the starboard quarter, which is the green one, is still maintaining course and speed. No changes whatsoever. And we are just talking about less than half a mile, which is nothing when you're moving at about 22 to 24 knot speed. I know in hindsight it sounds very stupid. You shouldn't be in this situation in the first place, but that's what it was. The captain comes up on the bridge and he decides to swing the ship hard to starboard towards the right-hand side. Again, no changes in the movements of these two ships whatsoever. Makes you wonder if there was anyone on the bridge at all. Those were the longest 1 minute and 30 seconds of my life, swinging across from port to starboard, across the length of this green ship, about 200 meters. We came really close, very close. Maybe about 100 meters, even less. This was a near miss. A near miss that was never reported. And many near misses such as this never get reported, not just within the marine world, but across industries, across safety critical industries. And I've become rather curious why. And I believe there are good reasons for that. I think one of the reasons is the companies do not have a very clear policy on how they will deal with a near miss report. What will be the consequences of reporting a near miss? So people are rather anxious. What happens when I report a near miss? There are no clear instructions. And then there's this fear of consequence, getting fired, discipline. Shame is another problem. Pride. When you work in an industry for a very long time, you take pride in what you do. So sometimes it's very difficult to accept failure, let alone report it. Yes, job security intuitively seems to be or should be high on the agenda, but it's not. It's not the most important reason why people don't report near misses. And the charter's interference or the customer's interference in the safety reporting system. And often when you see something like this, the customer loses trust in the shipping company. And it should be the other way around. So there are a range of reasons why near misses don't get reported. And these are just some of them. There could be many more. But I think this is the biggest problem, perfection. Perfection is the biggest problem why people do not report failure, not just near misses, but incidents as well, as much as they can underreport. Perfection in the sense, when we say zero accidents, we do not want to engage with failure. That's at least not the message from the top, but that's how it's perceived. And hence near misses don't get reported. So what gets reported then? Well, there are patterns there that get reported. One of them is this. A lot of machinery defects get reported, a lot of them, and one wonders why. You have a maintenance management system, which is where they belong. Why are they reported in near miss reporting system? Why is it that we are reporting them here? Or this, I work in the offshore world, and this is quite common. You report things like the chief steward baked a nice cake. Somebody did kind of motivational messages that you did a good job. There's nothing wrong with it, but this is probably not the channel to report these things. And then this, hey, you, wear your personal protective equipment. Why are you not wearing it? To the AB, to the rating. A lot of these things get reported. But you don't see it the other way around. And what is never heard? What is it that never gets reported? I have never seen a near miss like this. But you talk to mariners, most of them have at some stage slept on their watch, but we never report this. Why is that so? Why don't people report this? And I believe this is the answer. Because if you reported something like, I did not or I fell asleep on my watch, who will take accountability for that? Eventually, you have to own it. Will the shore side take accountability for this? That there were not enough people on watch or on board the ship? Or they were absolutely too tired? They need more manpower on board? So there are good reasons why people don't report the best of near misses. Because accountability is not shared across the organizations. It's generally the last man or the woman in the chain who has to take responsibility or accountability. The other thing is this. There is a growing body of research suggesting that 80% of routine errors are detected and fixed, but they never get reported. It's a huge number, 80% routine errors. small little things, which would be wealth of information if they were analyzed, but they never get reported. Why is that so? Let's have a look. A lot of companies have this idea of mandatory reporting, that you must report 2 near misses or 3 near misses every day, every week, every month, whatsoever. Now that's problematic. The problem is, which way do you go, detailed or generic? Now, for example, if you're mooring a ship, if you want mandatory reporting, then you have to come up with some very strict guidelines as to what should be reported. In a sense, somebody slips on the deck and doesn't get hurt, should that be reported? Somebody passing through or working very close to a tensed mooring line, should that be reported? You're trying to pull a tug rope, should that be reported? Or if it slips your hand. So you have to come up, if you want mandatory reporting, you have to come up with some very detailed guidelines as to what you would expect people to report. But that is just mooring. That would be a lot of information that you have to generate, or questions that you have to generate in your safety management system. So the easy way out is just to leave it generic. Leave it to the people to report what they think is worth reporting and what is not. The problem is that if you want to keep it generic and open to people, then why make it mandatory? Why not switch to a voluntary reporting system? You leave it for the people to decide. And what about these numbers? 2 near misses, 3 near misses every week, every month, every year, whatsoever. What is the story behind numbers? As you may be familiar, or some of you may be familiar with this idea of this pyramid as you see on the left-hand side, commonly referred to as the accident pyramid, or the Heinrich model, or the bird model, or the iceberg model. What it tells you is that for every 300 near misses or no injuries, as it was referred to originally, there are 29 minor injuries and 1 major injury or fatality. So if you reported enough injuries or no injuries, you could prevent the big ones from happening. Now, this whole idea of near miss reporting, or this pyramid model, it comes from 1930s, and it comes from a person called Herbert Heinrich. Now, Heinrich, with all due respect, his contributions to science have been, particularly to industrial safety, have been enormous. But what we got to realize is that he was never a scientist. Heinrich was a superintendent in a travel insurance company. He did have many other qualifications, but he did not have a scientific origin. The other thing is that much of this data that supports this 329-1 model is not even available in the scientific domain to validate. So we don't know how he came up with these numbers. In 1930s, when this theory first originated, the thinking behind this model was that in a lot of work sites, injuries were related to compensation because there were no on-site medical facilities available. So if you have an injury, you'll be compensated. And that became the basis to calculate this whole idea of 300 to 29 to 1. Things have changed now. And the other question intuitively is, must we wait 329 times for something to repeat before it shows up as a big event or a fatality or an injury. It doesn't quite make sense, at least to me. And I'm open to any questions. And finally, this, it is so focused on the outcome. Now, there is a problem with that because, as you see in this picture, today our systems have become far too sophisticated. A lot must go wrong before a collision happens. For example, for the outcome to show up, there are far too many protection layers in the system. The bridge navigation watch alarm system, maybe it's muted. The radar guard rings may have been deactivated. The officer on watch may have been distracted. The lookout man might have gone to sleep or snoozed. So as you can see in this picture, a lot has to go wrong before an outcome shows up, as you saw in the previous picture. So if you're not collecting data in your system systematically, you have no ways to identify if those 300 no injuries have any connection with that one major injury or one major event. Now, if you look at this picture, that was the original picture, which is completely different from what you see here. I don't know if you notice what I do. This was the fourth revision of Heinrich's work, where he realized that things are not that simple. As you can see in this picture, it's no longer a triangle anymore. It's a pathway to failure. And the other thing is this. Heinrich was absolutely consistent in what he was measuring. Today, it is not the case. Our reporting systems have become far too confused. You have everything dumped into it. Lost time injuries, first aid cases, restricted work, no injuries, near miss, observations. And the funny bit is that most people do not even agree to what each of them mean. Within the same organization, within the same ship, people have a very different understanding of these terms. So although Heinrich was absolutely consistent in what he was measuring, today we are using the same model without any common understanding of what should go within the safety management system, what you call a near miss. So the question is, should it be voluntary or mandatory? I think there is enough data or enough evidence in many safety critical industries that if you kept it voluntary, it works much better. People feel much more free to report. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but if you moved away from this number crunching, you can actually get much better data in your systems. And he left it for people to decide what they should report. Unless, of course, you're willing to come up with some very detailed guidance as to what should go in the report. The other thing is, should it be anonymous? I think it should be confidential rather than anonymous. Everyone should be accountable for what they are reporting. So the person who's reporting the near miss should be told that anything that you share within the organization will be kept confidential, but it shouldn't be anonymous, because that way he or she feels the responsibility to share authentic, genuine cases of near misses, not just sending garbage in, which becomes garbage out. What about the analysis? How should the analysis be done? I think the first important thing in the analysis is we should just get rid of who did it and when it happened, and concentrate rather on why and how it happened. So I think the answer is, and we are seeing this already in many companies, to move towards a confidential reporting system where people are allowed to express themselves what a near miss is all about. That's it. Thank you.
Nippin, thank you so much for what I think was a thought-provoking presentation, as it always is whenever you present. You give us a lot of things to think about, and the topic you talk about is a very, very serious one. As I said, I'm very, very grateful to you for coming on so early from Singapore in the morning there. Do anyone have any questions for Nippin? We've got a couple of minutes, obviously. Any questions that anyone would like to put to Nippin?
Sure.
No, I think you've stunned everyone, Nippin, and you've sent them all reeling. So it only remains for me to say, Nippin Anand, thank you very much indeed. Hope to catch up with you soon, and thank you very much for your contribution.
Yes, likewise, Mike. I enjoyed it very much so. Thank you for this opportunity once again, and we'll touch base once I'm back in London.
I look forward to it, Nippin. Thank you.
Bye-bye.